West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Seven a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, September 26, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Bill, as the Democrats have reminded us over and over and over again, time and time and time again, no one's above the law. Nobody's above the law. If you do something wrong, you deserve to get prosecuted. That's what happened to the former director of the FBI, James Comey.
Ooh, I'm raising my hand. Ooh, here, me in the back of the room.
Yes.
Does this thing about the law applying to everybody, for everybody? Or does
everybody at all times, every time, if you did anything wrong, yes, of course.
With the exception of the dude in the Oval Office. Remember the Supreme said? He's the one dude that can do whatever he wants because it's good to be the king.
Hey, if it's an official job and part of being the president, yes.
On a side note, a little bit of irony about both of us talking about the idea that everybody should be held liable under the law. The law doesn't care who you are, except for the dude that's in charge of the country. That's a weird one. I don't want to argue that with you. I'm just saying that it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing when we sit here and talk about the idea. You and I are going to talk about this. I just want to bring that up. I don't want to fight over it. I'm not trying to. I'm just think it's just weird.
Somebody made the argument, and I think they even wrote a whole book about it, that at any point you could prove that somebody violates federal law in some capacity. Sure. There's so many laws out there.
Absolutely. I'm sure I break FCC rules on a weekly. Absolutely.
Is that it? Is James Comey being prosecuted? Is it a righteous prosecution? Nobody is above the law. In this case, he lied to Congress and leaked information as the head of the FBI, using leaked information to go after a political opponent. Is this a righteous prosecution of Jim Comey?
You and I want to know.
Or is this just politically motivated?
And before we get to Blake's news, what I want to know, and I want to hear from y'all that are in MAGA, because that's not my world or anything else. I just am an outside observer. One of the things I want to know is this what you voted for? Because Donald Trump talked about the idea in the election that he was going to be your retribution. He said that I would be entitled to some revenge, but I wouldn't pursue it.
Oh, I want the retribution.
That's what I'm curious about, my friend. I want to hear this from you guys.
Democrats in the jail.
I want to hear that. Yeah, is
all
that what you
want? Time and make them go through the work they have to do when you're in prison. You know, when you have to. Yeah. You know, you have to go out there and work hard and get paid no money and all that stuff that happens.
You choose the news earlier in the week, you can be a computer programmer from
that's right.
prison. So, again, choices.
Jim Comey needs to clean the dirty laundry a little bit in prison. What do you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good morning. It is 48 TGIF and mostly clear in Denver. Expecting a high of 81 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story:
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either.
You big dummy, you big dummy, you big dummy, you big cold-blooded dummy, you big dummy.
One of the biggest liars in American history has been indicted. Former FBI Director James Comey. I want to hear from him again.
Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Yeah,
my family and I have known for years.
Keep the faith, and he is the freaking modern day Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. Some remember.
I don't.
Put a voodoo curse on me? Yeah, I took a doll, I put a nail on it, and then I put a pin in it, just like in the picture.
You little dope. What did you do that for?
'Cause I don't like you. Nobody likes you, Eddie. Not even Wally, and he's your best friend.
Eddie Haskell. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, I don't even think the Democrats really like him. It's it's funny because he's going to go out there and he's going to fight and he's going to get, this big attorney alongside to help him, and he's going to fight. And you don't even see really the Democrats coming out to try to justify what he did or anything like that.
He's not believable, not likable, and he's a fraud. Everybody knows it, and he makes a whole lot of money. There are some people who like him, though, on the left, but here's Mike Davis.
Lawyer up, Big Jim, and we are going to be making the 6'6" prison jumpsuits as we speak, because this guy is a snake. He participated in the biggest scandal in American history. When they talk about the threat to democracy, Crossfire Hurricane and the cover-up is the gravest threat to democracy we've seen in America. And so justice is definitely coming.
Yes.
And when he did the new book that he had written and came up with the ability to get a book signed by him, all that stuff, he did one book signing, did another one in Virginia, and nobody else. Nobody else was interested in hearing in Jim Comey. So I don't know, brother.
He's the epitome of what government was 20, 30, 40 years ago. Just slimy. I mean, you saw it when you lived in D.C. And no, people aren't buying it now. And I think a lot of it has to do with social media. Guys like him are being exposed. And yes, you need to go. If I don't know, if he'll go to prison, who knows? I don't know. But the fact is you have to try, because if you don't, all this is going to continue. And the integrity of our nation is up right now. It has to happen. And we have to be on the offensive, as Charlie Kirk said on before he died, and we played it on Thursday. That's right. So we have to be on the offensive. DJT posted that he's one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to, and corrupt. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is ordering hundreds of U.S. admirals and generals to head to Virginia for a meeting. The reason for the meeting is unclear, but multiple reports say it will take place at the Quantico base in Virginia. Thousands protesting in New York City today against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as he visits the UN and speaking at this hour. One person has died after an officer-involved shooting in Federal Heights. Federal Heights Police Commander Jason Schlenker says they were called to the area of West 90th Avenue and North Federal Thursday afternoon to investigate a domestic disturbance.
When they arrived and tried to disrupt the assault, my officers were fired upon. The suspect rammed our vehicle.
2 people inside the suspect vehicle were taken to the hospital, and 1 person died from their injuries. A Federal Heights police officer also received minor injuries. Investigation underway. The FBI admits it had 275 plainclothed agents embedded in the massive J6 crowds, and the conspiracy theorists were correct, it looks like. Merrick Garland dodged questions for years, remember that, about informants being involved in J6. Remember Thomas Massey did a great job with Garland.
It's our constitutional duty to do oversight. Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago, when I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol, and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were, or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were any?
I have no personal knowledge of this matter. I think.
Yeah, sure you don't. 47 is announcing new tariffs on drugs, trucks, and other products starting in October. 100% tariffs on pharmaceuticals will take effect October 1st unless drug makers start building U.S. factories. He also announced tariffs on kitchen cabinets, upholstered furniture, and foreign semi-trucks. Texas officials say a note found at the residence of the suspected Dallas ICE gunman said he wanted to cause terror for agents. Other notes found at the suspect's Oklahoma residence indicated that he acted alone. 47 is ordering federal prosecutors to pursue the death penalty in D.C. He has signed an executive order that directs AG Pam Bondi and U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro to seek capital punishment in especially aggravated cases. Conservative pastor Vodi Bachman Jr. has passed away at the age of 56. The Ryder Cup is underway.
Always nailed it. That is perfect.
320 carries, no problem for Bryson. Look at that. Wow. That's how you get the crowd going.
That is unbelievable. That just shows you that the tone for foursomes. That is an incredible shot. Got to give.
Oh, that's awesome. USA versus the Euros and everybody else. Bryson DeChambeau crushes it off the tee box at Bethpage Black. Thursday night football, Seahawks Cardinals.
From 52, the kick wobbles, but makes it through. And the Seahawks win it at the gun.
23-20, another field goal. Jeff loves that. 45 in Lakewood, 46 in Castle Rock, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
The terms that are being used here are not understood by the common everyday Joe. Pardon the expression.
Well, wait a minute. Keep me on script. We're on a script, right?
Yes. You got your script this morning, right, Bernie?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Gorgeous September weather here for the next few days for Denver in the Front Range. Temperatures will be very comfortable, mid to upper 70s today, low 80s Friday, upper 70s Saturday. Will be a touch cooler in the low to mid 70s Sunday. Today through Saturday, sunny and dry, maybe an isolated shower late Sunday, otherwise pleasant. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Hey, this is hanging around, counting crows. Well, that's kind of cool. All right, haven't heard this in a while. I hope you're enjoying your Friday. We've made it to the end of another week. Jeff and I this morning talking about the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. Was indicted for lying to Congress just yesterday. Is this malicious prosecution, the weaponization of Donald Trump's DOJ, or is this tit for tat? This is absolutely retribution that was necessary to keep those naughty, horrible Democrats in check because they did this to Trump, so they need to take a little bit of their own medicine. We are going to check in with Joan from Lakewood on this one. Joan, what do you think about this Comey indictment? Great idea, good idea, bad idea? What do you think?
I think that they need to have a gag order on Comey and that they shouldn't let him on any beaches.
Nice Beast reference. Appreciate that one. That's good.
He, I think in his statement was quoting his wife, who I think is the only one that's taking his phone calls. And I think that the Democrats, the only thing worse than Comey is Kamala's book tour.
Yeah, Kamala's book tour is going to be awful. Now, Joan, I got a question for you. You talked about the idea of a gag order. I personally think it would be a good idea if James Comey had a self-imposed gag order. I don't think he helps himself. I don't think he's that persuasive of a speaker where he thinks he's being too clever by half. And I think you accurately poking fun at his beach picture is exactly that. Yeah, sure, buddy. You just found that one. I don't believe that one, my friend. Now, Joan, with the gag order, are you looking at a court-enforced gag order? And the reason I ask is because when there was a court-enforced gag order with some of Trump's trials, he said it was a violation of his free speech and said the court is trying to prevent him from communicating with the public and a bunch of other things. Could we, if we did do a court-ordered gag order, can Comey then make the same arguments, in your opinion?
I think the court-ordered gag order and the fact they made him sit in the court in the middle of his campaign was kind of not fair. So you can ask me if I think this is retribution. I'm not sure. What I do know is this. They were slow walking it because they wanted to have it beyond the date that they could legally do this. And they had to make up laws and exceptions in order to take Trump to court after the things that he had done.
You're talking about the Alvin Bragg case. Yeah, the Alvin Bragg case, but I don't think the Jack Smith case and some of the other indictments would fall under that. I would agree with you on the Alvin Bragg case, and I thought that was the flimsiest of all of them. And personally, for me, that is the biggest argument against a Biden weaponization of the DOJ, only because if Biden is controlling this from behind the scenes and he is the puppet master, you don't lead with that case because that case is the weakest. What you do is you lead with the strongest case and then work your way down. That's how you would do this if you were really trying to prevent Trump from running and you're trying to harm him, etc. You don't lead with the weakest sauce because, as you know, people will always pay attention at the first one and they'll lose interest as things go on. So if you wanted to get all the attention, you do it with the hardcore stuff first. You don't come with this mealy-mouthed stuff that Alvin Bragg was doing. But I do think you're right. I do think that he stretched what was the statute of limitation and the rules in order to bring charges, and I think he was wrong about it. Now, will this work, though, this retribution?
I also think that it wasn't the weakest case. I think the Fannie Willis case was the weakest case, and I am personally offended by it because my dog is named Willis. So anyway, I think that when you ask, is this what I voted for? Yeah, it is what I voted for. I voted for the restoration of integrity. And I also think that what they did to Flynn was not good. And so when I see, when you say, is this retribution and stuff like this for Trump? I think it might be more for Flynn. And I'm terribly interested in the meeting that they're going to have at the Pentagon of all the generals.
So, Joan, one of the things that Donald Trump has said in the past 24, 48 hours, well, not that, but it was over the weekend, he declared James Comey guilty. Now, is that okay? Because you were talking about the restoration of the process and justice. Is that the restoration when you have the president coming out and declaring someone guilty before a court case? Would you feel the same way if Joe Biden had come out and declared Donald Trump guilty publicly, or anybody else in his former administration? Barack Obama had done it, if Bill Clinton had done it, any of those. Would you feel the same way that, yes, in order to restore the functioning American justice system and our reputation, that the president needs to declare people guilty before a court case?
I think that because he was gag ordered, that he has real feelings about freedom of speech. And say what you want to say. Trump says what he believes, and I'm okay with most of the time that, just like I'm okay with most of the time you say what you believe.
Yeah, although I'm not the president. It's kind of a different weight. Luckily, I'm just some clown on a microphone.
The thing we were talking about last night on Gutfield is the weight of what the president says more important than my weight of what I say. And I can say to you, I don't think so.
I think it is. I think it, and this is the reason why, Joan. I understand, but this is the reason why. I can come out and say what's going on with James Comey and Adam Shifty Schiff, and these people need to be indicted now. Oh, they are guilty as sin. Nothing happens. But when he says it, something happens. I think that's why it's different.
But in part, too, that's because Jim Comey used his position to target Donald Trump, to expose what he thought was a conspiracy that didn't exist, when after Michael Flynn, Jim Comey did not like Donald Trump, used his position at the FBI, leaked information, and I think that's inappropriate.
Are you certain of that? That he didn't like Donald Trump and used it to leak information?
Oh, yeah. No, that's very clear.
Then, okay, then explain to me, hang on.
Yeah,
then explain to me, if he hates Donald Trump so much, explain to me, this is what I can't understand about that, if that's his motivation. Explain to me why he talks about reopening the Hillary Clinton case so close to the election. We know that some studies have shown that created some pause and cause for questioning of their vote for some people that were persuadable voters at that time. That clouded the issue when Comey came out and talked about Hillary Clinton possibly being investigated again. If he is such a diehard Trump hater, why do that? Help me understand that one.
Do you want to answer that, Joan, or do you want me to?
No, I think that he has some insight to some of the polls, and he's very good at reading the room. And I think there's a lot of people, people will say, Joan, you are just extreme rightist and radical right, and you're just a terrible person because you voted for Trump. And it's like, I don't know if anybody is looking and seeing how many people have come back to church, how many turning point things. So I think he was trying to walk a middle. I don't think he wants to be indicted. I really honestly think he's shaking in his boots just a little bit.
Do you think so? Because and this is why that I'm curious about the idea that you think he's shaking in his boots, because from what I'm as how I'm reading the room, I see a U.S. attorney that has replaced a U.S. attorney that basically came to the conclusion that these charges weren't very provable, that they would have a difficult time proving them in court. Then they were replaced by a U.S. attorney that has no prosecution experience and, in fact, is an insurance defense lawyer and is now going to step in as the U.S. attorney into criminal court prosecution. And James Comey's defense team is led, from what I understand, a former DOJ or U.S. Attorney Office prosecutor that has years of experience doing exactly what the U.S. Attorney's Office should be doing in Virginia. And so if there's someone that is going to be able to mount an incredible defense against what they're doing, probably going to be that team. The team that I'm reading about that James Comey's got is serious. And so I think that's going to be an issue.
I think maybe on his team is going to be some of his son-in-laws that used to work for the DOJ, right?
That's a good point. Joan
does that mean they're
Lakewood,
bad?
I appreciate the call.
Out,
Thanks so much.
Well,
Joan's line will be open, 303-696-1971. This is, from my opinion, going to be a very direct case. They didn't overcharge Jim Comey. He has evidence, and he even admits he leaked information to a friend of his who serves as a professor. That professor then sent that information to the New York Times. That's one of the charges, and he lied to Congress. This is very direct. And they were willing to prosecute Michael Flynn. And if you're going to prosecute Michael Flynn, then Jim Comey is going to be guilty of it too.
Is this the document that was McCabe? I thought this was focusing on the McCabe document.
McCabe document.
Yeah,
Help me understand
I thought this was about the McCabe testimony that gave space where, or at least an inference that James Comey either knew of or gave the approval for it. And I thought the memo was different. I could be completely and totally wrong. I thought that other case was a different leak because I could be wrong about this one. I thought there were two different cases, but there also is an Inspector General report that looked into this issue with McCabe and his testimony and Comey's testimony. And the Inspector General report said that the preponderance of the evidence backed up what Comey was saying. Didn't say he was innocent per se, but said that McCabe's claims couldn't be backed up by the evidence, by what he was saying. And that was an Inspector General report about this specific issue.
Well, that's why you're going to have a trial around it. All right, let's go. We'll get to Brian up next. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Jeff and Bill Show. James Comey indicted 2 accounts, one having to do with lying to Congress, and the second, whether or not he actually leaked information. Andrew McCabe saying that he was ordered by Jim Comey to leak information. Jim Comey knew about it. All that. We'll have to see if he's guilty or not, but that's where the indictment comes down on those 2 particular issues. Let's go to Brian in Arvada. Good morning, Brian. You're on with Jeff and Bill. What do you think?
Hey, good morning. You know, Rush Limbaugh used to say Republicans go to jail, Democrats never do. And that's been the case for years and years and years.
How about the Bob Menendez?
Well, that was pretty easy. The guy had gold in his house. But if you but we're talking comparatively. It's very minute. But if
I would disagree, but okay, continue.
Yeah, well, I can bring Peter Navarro, Manafort, Flynn. If you hold Peter Strzok, if you hold Brennan, Comey, all to the same standard as Trump's
but Strzok wouldn't be held to the same standard because he didn't do the same thing that that the people you brought up did.
I mean, don't worry, we will get him. He won't win. We have Plan B. I mean, give me and that guy didn't go to jail. Give me a break.
But,
the
again,
deputy director of the FBI.
There was a Durham report that didn't find any sort of political motivation or conspiracy behind it. You can be angry about that all you want, Brian, but that was what was found, and that was Durham's report that didn't find that.
And what did Manafort do to go to jail?
Manafort was an unregistered Russian agent at the time and was working, and was feeding information to the Russian intelligence that he admitted to afterwards.
Did he break any laws?
Being an unregistered agent, yes.
Oh, okay. So again, and then just so we are the stage is set here. Comey in August of 2016, the director of national security, in a meeting with Obama, told Comey that the Steele dossier could not be proven and was probably funded by Hillary Clinton. And he still went ahead and signed the FISA warrants, knowing. And when you get a FISA warrant
why did he sign? But the FISA warrant, from my understanding, hang on, Brian. From my understanding, the FISA warrant was signed in part because we had contemporaneous examples from Trump campaign workers saying that they were getting information and talking to Russia. Papadopoulos is the one that did that. He ran his mouth at a cocktail party about the fact that they were talking to Russia and getting information from Russia. He said that, and that's part of the reason. And the indictment, regardless of what MAGA thinks, wasn't to spy on the Trump campaign. They were looking into what Russia was doing. That was the argument inside of that FISA warrant. It wasn't the, oh my God, we've got to make sure that Donald Trump isn't doing this. It was, it looks like Russia is trying to interfere in our elections. Let's go take a look. That's where it was.
Papadopoulos was a pawn, and that's all you have. I've got the the director of national security in the Oval Office, telling the FBI director.
Brian, stop. Brian,
let me finish.
Brian,
Billy. You got to talk.
Brian, okay, fine. Go right ahead. But
Papadopoulos
you're running over stuff that we already said.
Yeah, but you've got Papadopoulos, a character that's not even relevant, in my opinion. He was setting up meetings, a banquet or something. So, and he was a pawn in a plant, and they targeted him to open this thing up. We've got the deputy director of national security, the director of national security, and the FBI director of the FBI in the Oval Office, knowing a Steele dossier was fake and signing a FISA warrant anyway.
Brian,
that's
I'm
pretty
telling you,
important,
Brian,
relevant information.
Hang on a sec. I don't
That's
agree.
way better than Papadopoulos having talks with Russia about something else.
Brian, it is only relevant if the FISA warrant was written because of the Steele dossier. And my understanding is that is not the reason that it was written. That did play into part of it.
The FISA warrant should have never been signed, Billy. Never.
Wait,
and
hang on a sec. Hold on.
The evidence they used for the FISA warrants they knew was false. Not all of it, but part of it.
No, Brian.
Unless you have conclusive a conclusive evidence of something, a FISA warrant should never be signed because that allows you to spy on a
Brian,
American citizen.
how do you have conclusive evidence without going to court? Technically, I mean, the idea is what you're doing here, Brian. You're moving the goalposts, man. Because first of all, you talked about the idea that the FISA warrant was based on the Steele dossier. It wasn't based entirely on the Steele.
Billy.
It doesn't. Hang on a sec.
Was.
Even that, it doesn't invalidate the fact that the other stuff proved out to be true and correct. So just because part of it could have been laid on the Steele dossier doesn't mean it invalidates the entire other process as you are trying to do, especially when the other stuff proved correct. That's the issue here. You can't just wave your hand and go, Steele dossier was crap, and so none of this exists. Mueller's report walked through that, and he didn't even talk about it. He didn't even talk about the Steele dossier.
Billy, what proved correct that allowed them to spy on Carter Page? What proved correct? What evidence was so solid that they had to spy on American citizens? What evidence?
They found communications between the Trump campaign and Russian intelligence.
Who?
What do you mean? I'm sorry. Okay, hang on. Brian, hang on a sec.
Who
Brian,
was talking to who?
Tell you what, go ahead and go read the Mueller report. It's all there for you. That's all you have to do, man.
Right. You don't know who was talking to who.
Hold on, Brian. Just because I don't have those names at the ready because I didn't know I was going to have to go deeply into a report that was issued years ago because now you're demanding a name, and if I don't have the name on the tip of my tongue, it doesn't exist, please go check the report and you can find all the names you want. If you want me to do homework and bring them up later, I can do that. I'm sorry I don't have that on the tip of my tongue. I apologize, and that is absolutely a weakness of me this morning as a host.
Even if you did, Billy,
you wouldn't believe me. You wouldn't believe me.
Even if you did, that's not enough information to spy on somebody.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter to you at all. It wouldn't matter to you at all, Brian. That's it. It wouldn't matter to you at all what the information they have.
Guys, I want to get back to Jim Comey here. Brian, do you think Jim Comey will be convicted?
Well, here's the thing. They all said they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have signed the FISA warrant had they known what they know now.
Hey, Brian, go back to the question here. This is silly. I mean, you're just ignoring all the stuff. You're just ignoring all the stuff. Go ahead and answer Jeff's question.
Jeff, what question did you ask me?
Do you think Jim Comey is going to be convicted?
Probably not. And I don't know why. I just have no faith in the justice system because they've gone after Trump over BS. And there's actual people lying in this situation, making things up. And again, you have people like Billy and defending the undefendable, the indefensible. And it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. We're in a backwards world now. Trump haters are just going to hate Trump. And you're defending Comey, a liar, a guy that knew false information was being fed to him.
I'm not defending
and Brennan,
Comey.
Another liar. Another liar. These guys have ruined they have ruined the Americans' opinion
Brian, you may have missed it earlier in the morning. And I understand that not everybody can listen to the entirety of the program, so I will review in the first hour. I said if they can prove that James Comey lied under oath to Congress, yes, absolutely convict him. I got no problem with that. I'm not defending Comey. I think that he's somewhat of a weasel. I don't like him at all, personally. I don't. I wouldn't support him, but again, I'm not a Democrat nor am I a liberal. But what I have done is sat outside of this thing, and I went through things like the Mueller report and looked at what happened, and I think I've got a pretty good 10,000-foot view of what's happening above this. And the FISA reports were to look at, the Russia involvement in there in the election. But regardless of that, James Comey did, if he was trying to tank Trump's campaign, he did bring up and try to reopen the Hillary investigation right close to the campaign. I don't think that is someone that would do that as he's, going to try to do this. Now, what I want to go with you, Brian, here is this. What do you think about Donald Trump's public statements? Because I am of the opinion that Trump's public statements about James Comey being guilty as sin and other things encouraging the Department of Justice to indict him and find him guilty of a crime are going to be a problem when this gets to court. What do you think about Donald Trump's public statements? Will it help or harm, or is it indifferent to the court case? Just I want your opinion, man, because you're interesting.
It's going to harm, but but it is going to harm, and I wish he wouldn't do stuff like that. But John Radcliffe, at the end of July, he put the criminal referral in for James Comey. At the end of July, that's 2 months ago, John Radcliffe, the CIA director of CIA, put the criminal referral in for Comey. 2 months before Trump said one darn thing. So everyone keeps saying, after Trump said something, now you're seeing these indictments. This has been in the works for 2 months, and it's encouraging to see FBI turning their own in, because they usually just cover themselves, and it's refreshing to see Kash Patel finally say, we're going to turn one of our own in, because guess what? That he lied. And we need justice served, period. Everyone needs to be held to the same standard, and it's pretty clear that's not happening.
Now, what do you do with the Inspector General report, Brian? Because the Inspector General report looked into exactly this issue and found there wasn't a conclusion that you could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that James Comey lied. In fact, the Inspector General report said that the preponderance of the evidence actually backs up Comey's version of events, not McCabe's version of the events. Yet these indictments seem to lean on McCabe.
Report?
No, it's it's a third party. It's the Inspector General, the people that Trump has been firing, which are the outside people that are looking into the government.
I don't trust any of these reports. Like the Mueller report, he testified in front of Congress, and they asked him. It was one of the senators read him something, and he goes, "Where did you get that?" Mueller goes, "Well, where did you get that?" And he goes, "From your report." The guy didn't even, what they were quoting from his own report, and he didn't even know the information. So Mueller didn't write that report. He was the face of the report.
Well, hang on a sec. Wait, Brian, hang on a sec. Brian, usually in corporate America, when large reports are released, they're not written by the person that is at the top of the food chain.
Right.
I hate to break it to you, but when a congressional office releases a report, it's not written by the sitting member. That's written by staffers.
I don't think it's written by him.
But it's written by staffers. But it's written by staffers.
They should at least know enough about it to quote a topic and to quote a topic before you put your name on it. He couldn't even do that several times with Lindsey Graham.
But here's the thing: the idea. But even if he can't, hang on a second.
About his own report, and he's like, "Where'd you get that?"
But Brian, here's the thing: it doesn't invalidate the truth of the report. That's the problem with that. And thanks for the phone call. Is that you can say he couldn't quote the report and he didn't remember it when he was up on sitting there in front of Congress after years had passed. That's a fair critique, but it doesn't invalidate the truth behind the report. It doesn't mean the stuff inside the report was a lie just because he couldn't recall it. That's what you seem to be drawing a conclusion for him. That's not correct at that point. But I want to know, is this exactly what MAGA was voting for? Is this what you wanted? Did you want this retribution? Is this it? Is Donald Trump fulfilling your wishes, or could he possibly be stepping in it and making it more difficult to secure the exact convictions you want? He's come out and he's stated already that James Comey's guilty as sin. Comey hasn't gone to trial. Would you view it the same way if Joe Biden had come out and said Donald Trump's obviously guilty of sin? Would you say that Joe Biden is putting his thumb on the scales of justice? She's supposed to be blind. But is Donald Trump ripping off that blindfold? And is he saying that we need to look and decide someone's guilt before they hit court? Let me know. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. This is the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're discussing the indictment of James Comey by the Department of Justice. He's going to have to appear, and I believe it's all going to kick off in October, right? That's when the case will begin. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a little wild because what he's been indicted on is what happens in Washington, D.C. before breakfast.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, we don't make them
lie to Congress and you leak things.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we'd put all the members of Congress under oath before they step on the floor. It'd really save us a lot of time because they couldn't spew all that crap all the time. It'd be so helpful.
I saw there was a guy that got arrested for writing a check in Florida for $380 billion. Did you see that?
No, that's fantastic.
He tried to cash a check, $368 billion.
Billion, that's great.
In a check. And they have a picture of the check. I have it over on x.com/Jeff Hunt. And,
oh, my gosh.
And people are pointing out, isn't this just what Congress does? Before breakfast, they write checks for billions of dollars.
Yeah.
No one seems to indict them.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's kind of is this kind of the functioning of where our government is now? Because if this is the retribution cycle, okay, you talked earlier about the idea, Jeff, that you think this form of retribution, revenge, whatever we want to call it, is the way to bring the Democrats back into center and say, this is, you do it to us, we're going to do it to you. Do you think that is going to be effective, or will the Democrats feel so aggrieved they're going to feel now they have been given license to do this either again or in response, however you want to characterize it? But do you believe this will stop this kind of a cycle, if that's the point?
It would be nice if it was the case, because I've been part of a lot of conversations among conservatives that have been prosecuted for seemingly insignificant things that, the left dug into their lives, ripped apart every possible aspect in order to try to stop them because they were effective in what they did. And so, I think the American people would not like to have this used against the political opponents, have the DOJ used against their political opponents, not have Jared Polis going to oil and gas companies saying, I'm going to sabotage your businesses because I hate what you stand for, and I'm going to flood you with meaningless little violations to keep you busy. But that's where we are. So.
Yeah, I mean, and we can go back even further. I would sit there and say there have been some people that would be Democrats that would talk about going through and tearing apart their lives and going through everything in their background. And the two easiest and most prominent ones would be two former presidents, in Clinton and Obama. As far as everything that people dove into, there became a cottage industry around Obama's history. And then there was another cottage industry that popped up over how many people the Clintons allegedly killed. So I think that this kind of thing has been happening for quite a while. And that's why I'm curious as to why this is going to... Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is because, and the reason I feel it's getting worse is because there are groups of people that believe that we have prima facie evidence that this does happen all the time, is the way things work, and that now we have to get them back. And we've seen over and over again, anybody that's been a parent that has more than one child, or someone that has worked or seen kids on the playground, we can see how quickly that tit for tat works. That it's, you did this, so I'm going to do this back to you, then you're going to do this to me, then you're going to do this. And how many times, if you're a parent, have you turned to your kids and you're like, hey, stop hitting your brother or your sister? And they're like, but they did this to me yesterday. And then, but they 2 days ago did this, and they took my candy here. And it's always this long list of grievances that go back to where nobody wants to either own their behavior or change their behavior. And that's what I'm skeptical of, that this will ever change any behavior. I'm thinking that it might be just more of an encouragement, because if Donald Trump comes out and says, hey, these people need to be indicted and they're guilty as sin, is that okay then for the next president, or the next leader? Is that okay? If the Democrats come out and say that there's Republicans that are guilty as sin that need to be indicted, we sit there and say, well, it's okay now. This is just how the country functions. That's what I'm kind of worried about, the larger implications.
Well, and then what becomes the interest in serving, right?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
if you're going to run for office and they're going to rip your life to shreds in an effort to keep you from getting elected. And there's always been an element of opposition research that takes place,
always.
right? Like I have a master's degree in political management. I took entire classes on opposition research and entire industries that
So
work
you're saying
there.
it's your fault.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's just part of the process that they train you. I mean, there's investigative people that look into your backgrounds and find anything they can to use against you. So, and then good people are like, I don't want my family going through that. What's the point? You know?
That may be the problem. That then we end up with the bad people that don't care if you find out. And so is that it? That we will actually reap the whirlwind of what we want. The idea that rather than getting the good people back into office, the only thing that we're going to be left with are a bunch of rats because they don't care if we know how slimy they are because what are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And here's my example as we're wrapping up this hour. We all know, and I am not giving voice to knowledge we don't already possess. We do know that our Congress people seem to be awfully good at trading stocks, and their family members incredibly great at market timing. Just look at Pelosi's husband and him at the point in which he drops medical stocks, and also look at all the Congress people who, strangely enough, dropped all their hospitality stocks just before the lockdowns were going to come in. Just before that in COVID. All of a sudden, they got out of hospitality and into medical research. So this is what we're doing.
Yeah,
we know this happens and we just go,
people in the text messages reminding us, Hoover did this to political opponents using the FBI when he was in charge.
Those jokes of, I'm just kidding, J. Edgar. Yeah. Exactly. I remember those.
All right. Jimmy Sangenberger is going to be joining us in the next hour. Then we got Robin Carnes coming up as well. So the Jeff and Bill Show will continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.